Tonight, more newly unsealed court documents just released involving accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
We do start, though, with some breaking news at this hour. Hundreds of court filings expected to begin to start being unsealed today. They will contain the names of people associated with Jeffrey Epstein, the late sex offender and disgraced financier.
From being the most influential personality to having his hands soiled with a crime so despicable, a man believed he was doing a favor to young girls. However, he was smart enough to conceal this evil. Will he get away with this hideous crime? Or will it be one of those cases that was covered up at the end? Keep watching till the end to find out. Positioned on St. Thomas's beautiful sand beaches lies Little St. James, a 70-acre island. It was a zen-like retreat for Jeffrey Epstein. Some saw it as a terrifying spectacle. As you can see, Jeffrey spent $8 million buying the island in 1998, and since then, he has constructed a movie theater, a library, and a Japanese bathhouse. Here, Jeffrey would host high-profile guests like Bill Clinton, Stephen Hawking, Andrew Prince, and Alan Dershowitz, to mention a few. While the VIPs were on the island, Epstein would constantly entice young women who were all shuttled about on the Lolita Express. His early life and career. On January 20th, 1953, Jeffrey Epstein was born in the city of Brooklyn, New York, United States. Epstein was a mathematician who joined the math team at Lafayette High School. He also attended Cooper Union and New York University for a short period of time to study mathematics and physics, although he never got a degree from either institution. Instead, around the middle of the 1970s, he started working as a teacher at the Dalton School, which is a distinguished private school located in New York City. He taught mathematics and physics there. According to The Guardian, Epstein was known for wearing a fur coat, gold chains, and an open shirt that showed his chest. And he turned up, at least once, at a high school party when his students were drinking alcohol. It was creepy that he kept looking at girls in the halls and in his classroom, and some students remembered that it made them feel uncomfortable for decades. He was never officially charged with sexual misconduct, but one student was so uncomfortable around him that they told a school official about it. In the end, he was fired because he wasn't doing his job well. However, even with his job termination, working at the prestigious school offered him numerous advantages. According to Vanity Fair, through his students, he was also introduced to influential parents. One of them was Ace Greenberg, a famed trader and senior partner at Bear Stearns, a firm that specifically recruited people like Epstein. Epstein started working as a junior assistant in 1976. Only 4 years after entering the company, in 1980, he was promoted to senior partner. Epstein also immediately attracted a large number of personal clients. And by 1981, he had left Bear Stearns to start J. Epstein & Company, his own wealth management company. His company functioned a little bit differently from the others in the sector. He was a financial architect for his clients, managing all investments, tax planning, and charitable activities, and he would not take on a customer without the customer having at least $1 billion in assets. Epstein requested a power of attorney to manage his customers' full wealth in exchange for a flat fee. He never accepted commissions or percentages. According to some calculations, he would still make $75 million a year from just one account worth $15 billion, even if his annual management fee was set at 0.5%. No one else could handle or evaluate the accounts. He had roughly 20 accountants to keep the numbers straight, 150 staff for administrative work, and numerous attractive female helpers to keep him on schedule. He was the only one who decided what to invest in. Epstein gathered people he wished to stay close to in addition to his clients, most of whom were powerful figures in politics or the sciences. He spent time with Nobel Prize-winning physicist Murray Gell-Mann, who was co-chair of the science board of the Santa Fe Institute at that time. Some say he worked hard to get close to Bill Clinton and future President Donald Trump back then. But for several decades, Epstein had been romantically linked to Ghislaine Maxwell, the daughter of British media mogul Robert Maxwell, who had her own townhouse a few blocks away from his in New York. The heiress was known as a socialite, a party girl with friends in all stratospheres, as high as British royalty. Many postulated that, despite their connection, their relationship was largely platonic, mainly due to Epstein's dedication to his bachelor lifestyle. Journalist David Patrick Columbia said of the pair, "It's a mysterious relationship that they have. In one way, they are soulmates, yet they are hardly companions. It's a nice conventional relationship, where they serve each other's purposes." Epstein allegedly put hidden cameras all around his homes to capture famous individuals having sex with young girls for illegal purposes, including blackmail. A longtime companion and lover of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, informed a friend that Epstein's private island in the Virgin Islands was fully equipped with video equipment, and the friend thought Maxwell and Epstein were filming everyone on the island as a precautionary measure. If you find this video interesting, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to Unsolved Files to see more amazing content like this. And don't forget to give this video a like. It will really help us grow. If you just did that, we appreciate you. Now let's get back to our story. Investigation. In 2006, during a police search on his Palm Beach house, 2 concealed cameras were found. Additionally, it was stated that Epstein's New York estate had a sophisticated video monitoring system installed. Artist Maria Farmer, who worked for Epstein in 1996, reported that Epstein showed her the media room at the home in New York, where people were keeping an eye on the pinhole cameras all around the place. There was a secret entrance leading to the media room. There were males seated here, she said, in the media room, and when she glanced at the cameras, she saw bed and toilet. She went on to say, it was very obvious that they were like monitoring private moments. It is said that Epstein lent females to influential people in order to acquire their favor and maybe get information for blackmail. He stored compact CDs with handwritten markings that said, young name plus name, in his New York house safe, according to the Department of Justice.
Men sitting here, and I looked on the cameras, and I saw toilet, toilet, bed, bed, toilet, bed. I'm like, I am never going to use the restroom here, and I'm never
When
gonna
Epstein disclosed off the record to a reporter for the New York Times in 2018 that he had information on wealthy individuals, including their sexual preferences and recreational drug usage, he was implying that he had material for blackmail. Witnesses and sources claim that on the day of his arrest, around 12 FBI agents used search warrants to break open the door of his Manhattan townhouse, the Herbert N. Strauss House. Upon searching his apartment, authorities discovered hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs of fully or partially nude females, in addition to evidence of sex trafficking. It was established that some of the images showed female minors. Compact discs with handwritten labels with the phrase, Young Nam Mahas Nam, were discovered inside a locked safe. The discs had images of the young victims in their underwear, 48 diamonds, $70,000 in cash, and a forged Austrian passport with Epstein's picture, but a different name were also discovered in the safe. The passport expired in 1987. The passport bore many entry and departure stamps, some of which documented the traveler's entry into France, Spain, the United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia during the 1980s. According to his passport, he lives in Saudi Arabia. Epstein's lawyers claimed that he had been told to get the passport because, as an affluent member of the Jewish faith, he was vulnerable to kidnapping while traveling overseas. But Epstein wasn't just a playboy, and Maxwell was a lovesick groupie. Anyone in Epstein's orbit may have been pulled into the enormous gravity of his alleged heinous crimes, which all began to unravel in March 2005, when a 14-year-old girl confessed to her parents that something terrible had happened to her. Those parents went to the police with their story. Their daughter had been molested by Jeffrey Epstein in his Palm Beach mansion. When she was brought in for questioning, she told authorities she had been brought there by 2 other girls, and when those girls were brought in, they pointed to 2 more girls who had done the same thing to them. Investigators promptly discovered a cohort of victims, all adolescent females, who had the same narrative. After taking a cab to Epstein's Palm Beach oceanfront mansion, they were ushered via a side door into a kitchen. Epstein would have been waiting for them in the master bedroom after they had a snack there. According to 14-year-old Courtney Wild, who was one of Epstein's victims, she described his tactics as follows. Jeffrey targeted vulnerable girls who were experiencing homelessness or dire circumstances. He made a wise decision to pursue ladies whom he believed would not attract anyone's attention. The girls, who were mostly between the ages of 13 and 16, were largely brought to Epstein's home by other victims who had been promised large sums of money to recruit new girls for him, essentially creating a massive cult-like pyramid scheme so he could systematically rape underage girls, to mitigate the seriousness of the accusations made against him. During a breakfast meeting at the West Palm Beach Marriott in 2007, Epstein's legal team convinced the senior prosecutor in Miami, Alex Acosta, the U.S. attorney, and the district's chief federal law enforcement official to agree to an extraordinarily favorable plea bargain. At the time, Epstein was being represented by Jay Lefkowitz, an Acosta associate from a prominent Washington, D.C. legal practice from a few years prior. In accordance with the historic non-prosecution deal Acosta arranged, Epstein entered a guilty plea to 2 charges of recruiting a child for prostitution. Spencer Kuvan, the lawyer who defended the child in question, stated of the verdict, "She was taken advantage of twice, first by Epstein and then by the criminal court system. that labeled a 14-year-old girl as a prostitute. Epstein was sentenced to 13 months in a Florida county jail under Acosta's bargain.
We did what we did because we wanted to see Epstein go to jail.
Epstein, unlike many other convicted sex offenders, was confined in a private section of the Palm Beach County Jail rather than a state jail. Rather of being confined to his cell, the sheriff's office granted him release rights to work at his opulent West Palm Beach office, allowing him to leave the jail 6 days a week for 12 hours. Epstein's limousine would frequently pick him up from the prison as early as 7:15 a.m., and he would not be dropped off until almost 11 p.m. on some days. The sheriff department's official policy at the time stated unequivocally that sex offenders did not qualify for work release. Acosta also allowed another unprecedented stipulation that was in direct violation of federal law, as ruled by a federal judge in 2019. The victims would not be informed of the deal. During the time the case was sealed, the extent of Epstein's alleged crimes from 2001 to 2005, including the number of girls he assaulted and any information on co-conspirators, were lost in a legal limbo. Local authorities had referred Epstein's case to the FBI as well, but with the plea deal, some have criticized the fact that Acosta had also effectively halted their extensive ongoing probe. In fact, Acosta's deal ensured that Epstein and at least 4 accomplices received immunity from all federal criminal charges, with an incredibly flexible clause granting immunity to any potential co-conspirators as well. Many believe that this was done in order to protect any influential people who could have had sex with underage girls while on Epstein's land. In 2017, Acosta was proposed by the Trump administration to be Secretary of Labor, a role that directly affected labor laws and human trafficking. When questioned about his choices in Epstein's case, he said, "In the end, professionals in a prosecutor's office decided that a plea that ensures someone goes to jail, that ensures he registers as a sex offender, generally, and guarantees other outcomes is a good thing, based on the evidence." The tale of his arrest, trial, and sentence. In 2018, the secret that was definitely not a secret was exposed again, even in spite of the greatest efforts of a few influential guys. In a brutal investigative report that Julie K. Brown published in the Miami Herald, she repeated her accusations that Epstein had sexually assaulted or raped around 80 females between the years of 2001 and 2006. However, Epstein was in the hot seat again, and this time, he couldn't wiggle out of it. Investigators in New York City took up the case, and on July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested. By July 8, 2019, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office had issued federal charges against Epstein for the sexual trafficking of minors.
We announce the unsealing of sex trafficking charges against Jeffrey Epstein. The charges allege that Epstein sexually abused young girls by enticing them to engage in sex acts for money.
The allegations would also extend to Ghislaine Maxwell, one of Epstein's recruiters. Upon his indictment in early July, Epstein pleaded not guilty to all allegations that he had sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls in the early 2000s at his homes in Manhattan and Palm Beach. His trial was slated for June 2020, but what came next was an unexpected twist for Epstein. For years, Epstein had been able to live freely, despite the multitude of sexual abuse allegations. But finally, his vast wealth couldn't help him. Epstein offered to put up about $100 million for bail, requesting house arrest secured by armed guards that he would pay for. The magistrate denied his assertion. In Epstein's case, Manhattan federal court judge Richard Berman declared, "The government has established danger to others and to the community by means of abundant and convincing evidence. No bail amount, in my opinion, can outweigh a risk to the community." After Epstein's bail request was denied, he was sent to the Metropolitan Correctional Center located in Lower Manhattan. On July 23, 2019, around 1:30 in the morning, Epstein was found semi-conscious and covered with bruises on the floor of his cell. Nicholas Tartaglione, Epstein's cellmate and a former New York City police officer who was awaiting trial on 4 counts of murder, was questioned about Epstein's condition. He said he was unaware of what had occurred. Although they assumed that he had tried suicide, the correctional personnel did not rule out the possibility that it was staged or that he had been beaten by another prisoner. NBC News reported that 2 sources said Epstein may have attempted suicide by hanging. A third claimed the wounds were not severe and may have been faked, and a 4th source suggested that his cellmate's assault had not been completely ruled out. The tragic death ending. On July 29, 2019, Epstein was moved off suicide watch into a special living unit with another prisoner. According to those close to Epstein, he was in good spirits. The prison told the Justice Department that Epstein would have a cellmate when he was put in the special housing area, and that a guard would check on him every 30 minutes. The night he died, these protocols were not observed. Epstein's cellmate was transported out on August 9, 2019, but no one took his place. Later that evening, Epstein was not monitored every 30 minutes, as is standard routine at the jail. The two guards supposed to check on him in his detention unit that night fell asleep and did not check on him for around 3 hours. That night, 2 cameras in front of Epstein's cell also malfunctioned. On August 10, 2019, Epstein was discovered dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City around 6:30 a.m. The Bureau of Prisons stated that life-saving procedures were immediately implemented upon the finding of Epstein's body. He was transported to a hospital by emergency personnel. The Bureau of Prisons and U.S. Attorney General William Barr declared the death an apparent suicide, although no final conclusion was reached. The Inspector General's inquiry report for the United States Department of Justice, issued on June 27, 2023, chastised jail personnel for repeated negligence, misconduct, and outright job performance failures in connection with Epstein's detention and death. It also contradicted the notion that what occurred was anything other than a suicide attempt. Many people have since condemned the institution for their casual handling of a man who required the most stringent surveillance, partly because of the impact it had on his victims. Ghislaine Maxwell, on the other hand, was arrested on allegations of sexual trafficking of minors on July 2, 2020, approximately a year after Epstein's death, and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Many of the women have suffered from severe trauma as a result of the abuse they endured, as well as the ongoing inadequacies of the legal and criminal justice systems to shield Epstein's victims. In a statement, Jennifer Arias, who had claimed that Epstein had sexually assaulted her when she was 15, offered her viewpoint. While he will never be held accountable for the crimes he perpetrated or the suffering and misery he inflicted on so many people, we will have to live with the scars of his acts for the rest of our lives. Epstein is gone, but justice must still be served. Is your guess as good as mine? Just wondering. Did you actually think that Epstein committed suicide? Or could there be more to this story? Well, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Now, want to see more crime videos? Have you ever seen when a little girl induces love in a psychotic serial killer? It's on your screen. Go watch the video.